Well, hello there, Miss Spear here. How y'all doing? Welcome back to Seduce Me to the Dark Wars. How you guys doing? Miss Spear here. All jokes aside, welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War. And I might keep that voice because, let's face it, this is very seductive. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of Seduce Me to the Demon War, and let's get to it. I felt myself drift through the darkness of slumber, both at peace and enjoying the warmth around me that it brought. I was tranquil, unable to feel anything but bliss. I love that I often had the chance to experience this kind of sleep, which was good, since I was stressed about the upcoming wedding. I needed proper rest. However, as I floated through the dark, I could faintly hear the sound of fire swelling around me. I looked around through the dark, unable to see anything but blackness. What the? Slowly the noise began to grow louder and louder, unrelenting in its crescendo. I almost had to cover my ears from the sheer volume.
You think you can stop me, boy?
As I blinked, the dark around me shifted into a burning room. Flames touched every inch I could see, and in the midst of it all were Sam and his father, the Demon Lord. They were both wounded, but both were standing tall, confident as ever. This is a wounded picture? You gotta be kidding me. Sorry, guys. Interruption commentary here. Sam stood between me and the Demon Lord, protecting me from him. Still, I felt fear seep into my soul as I looked at the evil Demon Lord smirking at both me and Sam.
I will kill you, old man! I want to see you try. You don't even have the strength to save your precious human!
What? Before I could figure out what he meant, I felt an immense pain in my chest as something ripped through my back and stabbed through me. Sam turned towards me, horrified at what he saw. I looked down to see a blade sticking out of my sternum. I couldn't even emit a whimper of pain. An endless agony surged through my body, wrecking my nerves and distorting my vision. I could barely make out Sam, arching back to scream at the sky, large flames like wings erupting from his back. However, I felt my body give in to the pain, and my vision turned black. I felt waves of agony crash into my body, over and over, and I remained on the edge of death. When I was finally able to open my eyes, I could barely make out Sam, kneeling over me, resting my head on his knees as tears ran down his face.
This can't be happening. No.
From the look on his face, I was really dying. From the look on his face, I really was dying. How could this be? Why was this happening? His hands quaked in disbelief as he ran one along my cheek and used the other to hold my shoulders. I stared up at him, gasping for air as blood seeped over my skin. I was dying. I felt it. I knew it. Sam wept but continued to stare down at me, trying to keep me awake and alive with his touch. However, I felt that I wasn't going to last much longer. I winced at the pain and reached an arm up to Sam, touching his cheek. Sam. Sam shook his head violently, not wanting me to use energy to speak. I grimaced at the pain, but Sam continued to cry. My heart whimpered at the sight of his tears falling down his cheek.
Please, please, I love you. Please stay with me.
Sam, I love you. I wanted to wake up, but I didn't have the strength to fight this illusion. I became lost in the pain that was pinning my body down and draining me of life.
I can't lose you! Please! Please. I love you.
God damn, this is emotional. Holy shit. My chest wouldn't allow me to breathe in anymore. All I could do was exhale my last breaths and close my eyes.
No!
Fuck. At his scream, I finally awoke, sitting up in my bed and finally being able to fully breathe again. I panted, feeling the need for fresh air to circulate through my lungs and chest. I ran my hand over my chest, feeling no mark and knowing that I was indeed alive and awake. But what of Sam? I looked to the side to see him sound asleep, lost in his dreams, which seemed to be peaceful just from the look on his face. I let out a quiet sigh, closing my eyes and looking to the ceiling. It was just a dream, nothing more. It was merely a nightmare. I experienced them all the time. The more I thought of it, the more I could sense the fantasy of it. I was okay. We were okay. I ran a hand through my hair before lying back down, knowing that I would find solace in Sam's arms. As if by instinct, Sam wrapped both of his strong arms around my form, and I cuddled against his chest. We were fine. We were going to be fine. At last, the wedding day arrived. We had prepared all that we could, and everything was in order. Sam, wanting to follow human tradition and not see the bride before the wedding, headed to the venue to change into his tux. I, however, was alone. I didn't ask Naomi or Suzu to help, and I absolutely didn't want them to. I needed to be alone before my wedding, so I got dressed and made myself into the perfect bride, all on my own, in my own mansion. I stared at myself, seeing exactly what I wanted to see in the reflection. I looked exactly how I wanted to look on my wedding day. I smiled, unable to shake the feeling of happiness from my body. I'm getting married. I let out a small sigh as relief washed over my nervous mind. Everything was going to be fine. As I heard a car honking outside, I felt nervousness creep in once again. I shook my head. I needed to relax and breathe. I should put breathe in there. Holy crap. And we'll save here just to make sure. We'll go here. I'll back it up. I grabbed the things I needed and rushed out, entering a white limousine. It was set to bring me to the venue, but I stopped the driver before he began to drive off. Can we stop somewhere first? The driver agreed, and I guided him towards the cemetery my grandfather was buried at. It had been 2 years since he passed away. My personal visits to his grave has become fewer as time went on, but I had never stopped going. Today, though, was an incredibly happy day. I was so full of emotion, I couldn't help but visit his gravestone. After all, I was about to marry a demon. I was about to marry the man of my dreams. I wanted to stop there before going to the wedding venue to talk to my grandfather. I'm pretty sure I looked odd to the cemetery wearing a wedding dress. However, I really didn't mind. I needed to come regardless. I stood by the grave, staring down at it with a smile. I'm getting married today, Grandpa. The wind gently danced around me as if my grandfather urged it to reply. My smile grew brighter and I let out a sigh. I couldn't lie. I wanted my grandfather to be at my wedding, but I couldn't go back in time. Even if I was able to, How could I have stopped him from dying? I shook my head. I didn't want to think of that. Not on the day of my wedding. I hope you'll be there in spirit, Grandpa. I'm sure you'll... Before I could continue my sentence, the sky suddenly became dark, causing me to look up. Rain began to fall and pattern against the stone and grass as a haunting bell began to chime. What boggled my mind was the fact that the rain was avoiding my body. It was like I was in a safe circle underneath an invisible umbrella so that the rain couldn't soak me or my dress. What the... Was this grandfather's doing? Why was it raining all of a sudden? The rain became heavy, and I didn't dare move from my spot. Afraid of what would happen, I looked at his grave, confused and concerned. My eyes locked onto the engraved stone. This wasn't a natural storm. Magic was at work here. My heart gave a quick squeeze in reply to my conclusion, but the word magic reverberated in my mind. Magic. I looked down and lifted my hands to scan over my gloved palms. My fingers began to tingle, almost as if that single word had unlocked something. Magic. I gently pinched the edge of the stone on my hand with 2 fingers and slid it off, revealing my bare skin. Nothing had changed, but I could feel that something was different. I could faintly feel energy zipping through the nerves under my skin, dancing in excitement at the word magic. I wonder... I knew Diana had taken away my energy and my magic before she left, but what if I still had some left? I raised my hand to the sky and focused on the back of my hand. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had to see something. And if just in case this was something, I'm going to save here again. We're going to go back. My mind quickly formed a word in my mind. I didn't know where it came from, but I let it fly from my lips as a soft whisper. Ah! Sorry guys, my cat kind of walked on the keyboard, so now I'm like, a little lost. Dizino. As soon as the sound of that word rose into the air, the rain around me suddenly froze as if something had stopped. The wind was still slightly blowing, but the rain had stopped. I slowly lowered my hand and looked around. Did I really do this? Before I could move again, the raindrops and the stormy clouds above began to fade away, returning to the sunny weather it had before. I looked around and noticed that the grass and the gravestones were all dry, as if the rain hadn't even fallen in the first place. That was...
I knew it! That girl has demon magic.
Oh shit. What the...
Then quit talking and let's take her!
Oh shit.
The demon lord will be so pleased.
Oh shit. Who? Before I could turn to search for the voices, I felt hands grab hold of my feet, and I looked down and lifted my dress. Two pair of evil-looking hands had taken hold of my ankles, reaching through a dark red and purple pentagram. I shrieked, trying to pull my legs away, but couldn't stop them as they swiftly pulled me into the ground. Oh, shit! I was pulled deeper into the darkness. I was no longer in my room. I was being dragged through a dark void, one that I couldn't escape. I reached out and clawed at the dark, trying to find something to grab on to. I tried to pull my legs away from the hands that were holding them, but couldn't pull free. What was going on? Why was this happening? Someone help me! As if someone had heard my screams, I suddenly felt the hands let go and disappear, leaving me to float in the darkness they left me in. I shut my eyes. Please let this be a dream. Please let this be a dream. Ah. I finally felt a surface under my feet, and I collapsed onto it, my body curling in on itself from the experience I had. I didn't dare tear my eyes away from my lap, not ready to get up just yet. The voice I heard, however, made my heart stop.
You! What are you doing here?
I know this voice. If you guys haven't seen the first episode of Seduce Me via Tomy, then you better go watch it. I looked up, finally having the courage to take in my surroundings. My heart stopped beating for a moment, seizing in my chest. I looked up to see 5 figures, strangers, monsters, being that I didn't recognize. They all looked down at me in surprise, as if I had dropped in at a very bad time. One man looked like an orc, a fantasy game without the tusk. He had broken horns and a very frightening aura around him as he stared at me. The other male was lanky, in comparison more human-like, but I could almost feel power emanating from him regardless. One of the women who was staring at me had rabbit ears. Rabbit ears! They twitched on top of her head as she looked at me and gripped her staff. She seemed harmless, yet she had animal ears. Which is her over there. The one creature that I couldn't discern the sex of seemed more excited to see me than surprised. What freaked me out about them was that they had wings sticking out from their back, and they were floating. They have wings? I don't see these wings. The last woman, however, set off alarm bells in my head as I looked at her surprised face, her hair, her eyes, and we're so gonna save. Since there's no choices, I'm just gonna do that. Diana? As she stared, the woman turned her body towards me in recognition to the name I called her. It was her.
What are you doing here?
Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't look like a human, yet I wasn't afraid of her demon form as it towered over me. I was more in shock as to what was going on. Before Diana could speak further, most likely to repeat herself, a figure quickly stepped up and bowed to her, kneeling beside her.
My lady, please forgive me. I felt something moving between our worlds and assumed the Demon Lord was to blame, so I intercepted his summoning of this human.
You! So I wasn't the only one who felt the change in the air.
Diana stared at the man kneeling beside me as I kept my eyes up at her. As she turned her gaze back to me, I gulped silently. What was she going to do with me? This all felt wrong. I was about to be married. I was about to live my happily ever after with the man I loved. Now I was in a place I didn't know with Diane and a bunch of other creatures I didn't recognize. My instinct was to... Choices. We're going to save here because I didn't make a choice. Hee hee. Okay, so my first instincts will not be attack, but I think I will stay still. I couldn't move. My mind was empty of emotion except for fear. Why was this happening? Where was I? Why was Diana here? Sorry, guys. Diana stared down at me before sighing and kneeling down to my level. As she settled onto her knees, I leaned away from her, unsure what she'd do. Was she going to kiss me again and take my energy, knowing... Sorry, guys. Knowing her? Maybe. I'm gonna go grab a drink. Be right back. Saying hi to everybody, Lucky. I have to grab a drink. Ugh. Yeah. Ah, there we go. Ugh. Have you gotten your fill? Ugh. All right.
Can you tell me what happened?
I didn't want to speak. I felt no courage to. And thank you guys for waiting so patiently. I felt no courage to. My mind was so wrapped around this chaos that I felt nothing but fear and anxiousness. This couldn't have been happening. I was dreaming.
Is she okay?
I don't think so.
This is a waste of our time. Just kill her or something.
Yes, because that's a smart thing to do. Kill someone who is clearly traumatized and has done nothing to deserve death. Brilliant idea. Bravo.
I kinda like that guy. Diana continued to stare at me, waiting for me to answer. Why? She didn't cast a spell on me, nor did she attack me. She continued to wait and stare. Slowly my mind began to sink into the situation. Diana was willing to listen. Was she willing to help? That was another question, but first I had to answer her. My voice didn't want to answer. Still, so I focused myself to nod, wanting to answer her somehow. Diana smiled softly, which conflicted with my memories of her. She never smiled like that, yet she was now. Diana held out her hand, urging me to take it.
Can you stand?
I nodded again and took her hand, standing up at last. I looked around at the others being in the room. They all kept their gaze to me, unsure what I could do or say. Diana, however, led the conversation.
First, can you tell me what happened to you?
I took a breath, recounting everything that happened. I was about to go to the church to be married, and then I was attacked by this darkness. A couple of hands grabbed my legs and pulled me into it, and then I fell here.
A shadow summoning.
Diana turned to one of the beings, the lanky male, and glared.
One of yours couldn't have.
On my honor, it wasn't any of mine. We have nothing to gain from kidnapping a human, nor do we know who this woman is anyhow.
My lady, if I may, I clearly remember hearing imp demons in the void along with her. It must have been the Demon Lord's henchmen.
Those damnable creatures. That explains it.
Diana crossed her arms and looked to me again.
Well, dear, it seems that you were to be either a new harem girl for the Demon Lord to ravish, or bait for the boys to return to their father's side. Either way, I doubt you would have lived long had the Demon Lord gotten his hands on you.
A violent shiver ran up my spine. Was it true? I could have died?
Wait a minute. This girl knows about the Demon Lord's errors.
Sure do.
Yes, hilariously enough, she was set to marry one of them, as you can see from her garb.
As Diana motioned towards my dress, I realized how vulnerable I was and felt extremely self-conscious. I wrapped my arms around myself as Diana let out a sigh. Poor Les is like, stop staring at me. I'm in my wedding dress. Leave me alone.
Well, since you do not belong here, the obvious thing to do is to send you home.
I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at Diana. She was really going to send me home? Really? I couldn't believe my ears. You will really send me back?
Of course. It should be easy to do once everything is in order. It'll be like you never left the human world.
Wait. Like I never left the human world? What do you mean by left the human world? Diana stared before chuckling softly and gesturing to the room and beings within it.
Dear, do you not realize where you are?
Hell.
You are in the demon world.
My mind went blank. It couldn't be. I couldn't be in the demon world. No way. No way in hell. I felt myself back up against the wall behind me. Suddenly afraid I was in another world. How? That was impossible. Diana stepped towards me, both of her hands softly trying to show she meant no harm as she positioned them in front of her body.
Do not panic. We will send you back now, so there's nothing to worry about.
How will you power the spell? Bringing someone here is no easy task, but sending someone back consumes much more energy.
I'll use what energy I have now and rest. We can organize the siege another time when I fully recover. It's not like the Demon Lord can escape the corner we've trapped him in, so we do have some time to spare.
You'd waste time and energy on this human. We must strike now while the Demon Lord is weakened.
Oh dear.
But the human doesn't belong here. She needs to go home.
Shall I prepare the return spell?
Do. I grant you permission to use my energy to power the spell.
With a nod, the lanky man held out his hand towards the wall. I looked over in the direction it was aimed at. Diana's shadow. I watched as Diana's shadow simply stood against the wall, mirroring the movements of the real succubus in the room. Before my eyes, the shadow began to morph and expand on the wall on its own. I looked back to Diana to see her wrapping her arms around herself and curling her shoulders over as if she was in pain. Her nails embedded themselves into her forearms, and I could barely make out a painful hiss escaping her clenched teeth. Was the spell hurting her that badly? I turned back to the wall to see Diana's shadow shaking and vibrating, as if it was resisting the change the man was forcing on it.
You will obey my command. Open the gates to the void, and allow passage to the world we seek.
Transitum per renan et ultra nives. Ubi apperit, Ianoio, blessed guild.
Upon Diana's final word, her shadow burst and expanded into an oval shape. Doorway. I stared wide-eyed at the passage before a hand placed itself on my shoulder, forcing me to look over. The one with the spear gently pressed my shoulders forward and looked down at me with almost a stern face.
You must leave now. The faster you leave, the quicker we can close the void.
Go! Go! Go get married!
Okay then. I quickly nodded and lifted the bottom of my dress, stepping forward to make a run for the passageway. However, before I could bolt towards my freedom, a snarl echoed through the room.
How dare you interfere with my summoning!
Oh shit. we just heard the Demon Lord. Oh shit. We're going to save that here. Ding. No, because those were choices there, so we'll go here. At that very moment, Diana began to scream, arching her spine and throwing her head back. Around her body were red-tinted bolts of lightning flashing and shocking her form.
No! Human! Use the passage! Now!
He didn't have to tell me twice. I bolted towards the portal, diving forward as I neared it. But I was forced back by a burst of energy and a flash of red light. I fell to the floor, almost slamming my head onto the stone.
Human will never, ever leave this world alive!
Oh shit. Shit.
You spineless worm!
Close the portal! The Demon Lord might get through!
But the human...
Close it!
As commanded, the man pulled his hand back, visually forcing his arm back behind his body, and Diana's shadow quickly began to morph back into a simple shadow. The electricity around Diana's faded away, and she began to tip forward. The man with the spear dropped his weapon and caught Diana in his arms, crediting her to his body as she panted and gasped for air.
I don't sense the Demon Lord anywhere.
The worm has to scurry through the shadows to try and fight back. He'll be dead soon enough.
How is she, guard?
Diana seemed to be look uninjured, but her body was twitching from the aftermath of the magical attack. Her visible eye was shut tight as she dug her fingers into the guard's jacket to cling to him. As her eyes opened, I saw not a blood ruby red color, but I saw a cold and unfriendly golden color painted over her irises. Her mouth opened as she panted for air, and I could see hunger in her facial expressions. but she continued to stare at the wall, not wanting to make eye contact with anyone.
There are no physical wounds, but she's been weakened. I must give her my energy so she can recover.
Oh dear. The man swiftly moved and hooked an arm underneath Diana's knees, lifting her up bridal style as she clung to his jacket, shivering. The spear that had fallen to the floor faded into black and purple mist as he quickly left the room with her in his arms. My mind, however, began to panic. I couldn't go home. Why was I being forced to stay? Damn the Demon Lord. This wasn't right.
There's an imp in the castle. That is the only way the Demon Lord could have been able to interfere.
You! Guards by the door! Hunt it down!
A pair of guards that were apparently by the door saluted the one commanding them and ran off. I felt out of place, alone, terrified as to what was going to happen. The Demon Lord wanted me here, and his words pounded at my mind. How was I going to get home? Would I ever be able to go home? I looked up to see the winged person hovering near me before they moved and sat on their knees on the stone ground beside me.
We'll get you home, okay? Diana just needs a little rest, okay?
She needs more than rest. She needs to use a different spell to send her back. The Demon Lord will expect her to use the shadow spell again.
How about the normal way? I'm sure we can connect to a witch, or even the warlock she used before, to reopen a portal to the human world.
The warlock she used to get to the human world died, remember? And he was the most powerful warlock in the human world. Practically a god himself. What other human could be used to open a portal without another human dying?
It was merely a suggestion. The faster we get this human home, the faster we can move on and finish off the Demon Lord.
Well, what are we going to do with the human now?
We can give her a room to rest in. Humans need sleep after all. Maybe by the time she wakes up, we'll think of a solution.
Come.
The woman with the rabbit ears looked down at me and lowered her hand to me, inviting me to take it. She had a kind but concerned expression on her face, so I trusted her. I slowly took her hand and began to stand up as the fairy figure brushed off the small patches of dust that had accumulated on my dress. I couldn't do anything. I was forced to listen to the beings around me because there was nothing else I could do. Without them, I couldn't get home. My heart ached, but I had to accept my predicament.
Here, I'll bring you to the open ambassador's room. You are free to rest there for now.
I am curious about what about Diana. The floating person giggled softly as the woman with rabbit ears cleared her throat.
She'll be fine. She's being taken care of right now.
Why not just say she's getting fucked?
Okay. Guess I know what's going on with her.
And the brute strikes again with the lack of tasteful filtering between his brain and his mouth. You still have yet to prove me wrong about my expectations of you.
Keep testing me, assassin. I'm not afraid to rip your spine out of your body and use it as a back scratcher.
You can very well try, brute.
I have a feeling we're gonna know these guys' names soon.
Ugh! Would you both knock it off?
Come. Everything will be taken care of.
Before I could protest, the woman led me out of the room and into the hall. I kept my eyes down, trying to take in more of the situation I was in. I was trapped in the demon world, and Diana was out of commission. The demon lord had plans for me, but what exactly was he aiming for? I could have been bait. I could have been revenge. I didn't know, nor could I figure it out now. At least I was safe. At least I hope I was safe. I hoped I was safe. The woman led me to a room that particularly screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had the old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot into the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
Thank you. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left, closing the door behind her. I took a moment to observe my surroundings. Instead, in understanding the aesthetics, this was fantasy turned into reality. It was like I had gone back in time. Why though? Why was the demon world really that behind in the times? Or did magic supersede technology, and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind, as if I was given a golden opportunity to learn something new. However, my thoughts began to drift, and I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, needing to sit down and let everything settle in without passing out. As my rear hit the mattress, however, I let out a small, pleasured sigh. Oh my. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress. Oh dear. So it's like mattress ecstasy or something like that. I felt myself fall back, and my entire body simply melted into the softness beneath my body. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Was that possible? Demon magic may have had something to do with it, but I was certain that I was drifting into almost a blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets and mattress. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed the rest, since Diana wouldn't be available for a while anyway. Darkness surrounded my mind, my dreams remaining silent and hushed in the cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that was all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander in subconsciousness, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined him finding a way through to the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing never to let me go. I would be revealed, and we would be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic now. I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them, whether I liked it or not. And I'm going to end that episode right there, guys. I will see you guys in another episode very soon. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, you can always subscribe. You can always drop me a line down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Talk to you guys later. Me to get lost in. His arms were my castle, and his heart was my